Hello and happy Hylia days to you all, and welcome to the Zelda Universe Podcast. We're grateful to have you join us as we reminisce about our many experiences in the land of Hyrule and beyond. My name is Connor Schultz. It is a pleasure to be with you again. And joining me this time, we have one of our returning commentators, participants, Cayden. Cayden, what do you want to refer to yourself as?
Very passionate, recurring individual.
All right. Individual it is. And, well, since I gave Cayden the opportunity to designate himself, we have, as usual, one of our features writers, and I think, Jared, this is the first time you've been with us, or...
It's the first time I've been on this podcast. It's the second time I've recorded with you, though, because you were a guest on my show, Connor.
That's right. That's right. Oh, it has been some time since that happened. That was so much fun. Yes. So, should we call you a fellow podcaster then? What do you want your title to be?
Yeah, it'd feel a little disingenuous, though, because I haven't posted in quite a while. We did our 100th episode of Level With Us. It's a video game discussion show where we play fun games like Name That Tune. And Connor, you did a very, very difficult Zelda Name That Tune. But since then, we've only posted a few times, and after our 100th episode, I'm having another baby, and we're kind of putting things on ice for now. But hope to get back into it soon. So I don't know if podcaster is the right term, but sure. How about seasoned podcaster or podcasting veteran, maybe?
There we
might
go.
be okay.
Veteran. So we have the individual and the veteran. Well, first off, congratulations on the baby.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, congrats.
And Cayden, as a music aficionado yourself, we were actually talking about before you joined us. First off, there's a Zelda Hyrule. For those of you who are familiar with the Wordle vocabulary game, there is an audio version called Hyrule. Heard as in I heard it, L-E. And they have Hyrule games for everything from popular music to specific genres, and there is also one for Legend of Zelda music. So if you want to test your skills there.
I'll have to look that up. That sounds fun.
Yeah. And Cayden, if you ever go and check out Jared's podcast and you find mine, you can get the hard version of the music quiz that I got through, and you can see how well you do. We can't do it right now, obviously, but...
Oh, man!
That's it! We're hijacking this entire podcast.
Fair warning, Cayden. It goes very deep into like obscure Zelda releases. So
We're talking like Tingle's Rosarupee Land?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and more.
Yes.
Okay. That's got me sweating now, I'm not gonna lie.
Jared was very nice with me because he let me have multiple guesses as I was thinking off the songs that I had. And so while I did well, I was proud of myself. Overall, I had a respectable showing. This is not like, I do not want to try and toot my own horn and say... You
did not embarrass yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, I mean, I didn't hold back, and I was I will say, you say I was nice. I was actually really, really enjoying watching you struggle, so I don't know if that's nice or not, but it was so fun to have you on, so thanks again for doing that earlier this year.
No, it was so fun to do that with you.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. The most obscure I've gotten with Zelda games is, I guess crossbow training. Link's crossbow training.
Nice.
Oh, it goes more obscure than that, but that crossbow training might make an appearance on that list.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. I think it did.
You guessed it quite a few times.
I probably did, because when it comes to obscure games with Zelda, crossbow training is definitely one of those that is in there. And we're going to start today with a decently obscure game, simply because it's really hard to get a hold of, much less play this game at this point, as we open up the Bomber's Notebook, the series where we take a special look at the various and unique characters found in the Legend of Zelda series. And at first glance, this character would not be particularly obscure, because pretty much anybody who's familiar with the franchise is familiar with Malon, our farm girl, who is in a couple of different iterations, but in this particular outing, we are looking specifically at her appearance in Four Swords Adventures. Like I said, technically obscure at this point because it was only ever released on the Game Boy, only ever released on the GameCube, and as it is one of the few multiplayer Zelda games, there's kind of this weird situation, I guess. Have either of you played Four Swords Adventures?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah, I have it, and I recently bought 4 link cables a year or two ago in the hopes of getting enough people together to do it. And I've only successfully done it once, and we only got through like 1 or 2 levels, unfortunately. But it's still my dream to do a full 4-player playthrough of that entire game, because growing up I only played it in single player, which obviously is not how it's meant to be experienced.
How it's meant, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's the same for me. Like I didn't have many people to play 4-player Zelda with, so I played the game solo. But granted, it is a solid solo experience, I must say. Like I had a good time with it.
For what it is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's totally fun, regardless of how it is that you get to play it. And once again, this is Nintendo trying to show off their tech via a Zelda game. The whole Game Boy to GameCube link cable, allowing you to play multiplayer Zelda with your friends. And even if you are playing it single player, you can tell how this game is designed to be a multiplayer adventure. All of the adventures and chapters, episodes of the game are designed with a friend gathering in mind. Everything is neatly sectioned off so that you can have bite-sized pieces to enjoy and experience regardless of how long your friends happen to be able to come over. And with all of the characters that are within this game, both in terms of enemies and in terms of, like Malon here, NPCs, it's really designed to be a Zelda's greatest hits type of game. We've all had these experiences with these characters by ourselves. Now we get to do it as a group.
With Four Swords Adventures, it does really make me want to see something along the lines of like Echoes of Wisdom, where there's a lot of different Zelda elements from across the series crammed into this game. Some really obscure ones too that we'll talk about in one of the next sections regarding enemies, but also characters. I don't think Malon shows up in that game.
In Echoes of Wisdom, she does not.
Right. I don't think she does.
There is a farmhand who tends to horses, but yeah, I don't think it's Malon.
I was just thinking, I'd like to see a Four Swords game, a third Four Swords game, not Triforce Heroes. Love that game, but we're talking about Four Swords right now. I'd love to see like a Four Swords follow-up with Vati, all of those bells and whistles. But like we have Malon, we have the Deku Tree, we have all these other Zelda-isms that I like referring to, all in one place. And I think seeing Malon in this game was really cool. It's one of the things that stuck out to me. I'm glad we're talking about this now in this podcast, is because like it's one of the few things about Four Swords Adventures that really stuck out to me. This you see here in the mission where you ride on a horse in Four Swords Adventures. It's raining, you're riding a horse, and it's like the only mission you get to do that, I think, pretty sure. And that was just a really memorable moment for the game.
It really is, considering it's a level-based game, right? They're very distinct levels. There's not an overworld or anything. I do love their attempt to inject variety into each mission. So having this sort of pseudo escort mission, which generally aren't favorably looked upon in video games most of the time, I actually quite like it. I think that's really cool. And to your point, Cayden, about how cool is it to see Malon in this multiplayer game, I really love it when Zelda embraces kind of its anthology side. You know, the timeline's important. I love the timeline, but it's fun when we get to see characters in new contexts. You know, we always talk about what the new Zelda, Princess Zelda, looks like, or the new Link design. But I'm often just excited for the new Tingle or the new Beetle, who Beetle is quickly becoming the equivalent of Sid in Final Fantasy, where we're seeing him pop up in almost every Zelda game. And I'm here for it. I just love it. So
what you're saying is, in the next Zelda game, Beetle's going to be running some kind of transportation service, and we get to ride like a giant horned rhinoceros beetle to get from place to place.
That sounds perfect. That sounds exactly like him.
Oh, you mean Hollow Knight?
That's it. Hollow Knight is actually taking place in Beetle's little ant farm. It all comes back to Beetle. I mean, we talked about Beetle during the last podcast as well. It all comes back to Beetle.
That's right.
I wonder if Beetle is a higher being in the Hollow Knight verse. I've recently got into Hollow Knight and Silksong, so it's very fresh in my brain. So
it's perfectly fine. I have been a public critic of the timeline, and what I think one of the nice things about how The Legend of Zelda is created is because regardless of whether or not you believe in the timeline as currently constituted, it's fairly clear that Nintendo's developers are not particularly beholden to it themselves.
No, it's not number one priority. Yeah.
There are core concepts, there are core ideas that are consistent from game to game, but aside from that, they take whatever they want and whatever it is that they are coming up with, and they run with it, which is really fun, and it also lets them put together those same characters in new situations without having to necessarily either reinvent the character or try and explain, wait, how is this character here when they were over here? Don't worry about it. That has nothing to do with what we're actually doing. It's a familiar face, and we like seeing familiar faces.
Yeah, I've been slowly over time being persuaded that it really should just be full anthology. Just make it whatever you want it to make. I do love the split timeline. I do love some making cool connections, but it just, since it's not the number one priority to them when they're developing the game, you know, they might as well just not be beholden to anything, like you said. It reminds me that there's this show that I actually got to work on partially called Star Wars Visions, and it's a bunch of anime studios recording and developing their own little short film for Star Wars, but they're not beholden to the timeline. They're not beholden to the Skywalker saga. They're just able to make whatever they want and include space and lightsabers, basically. There's a ghost story one. There's a Ronin samurai one, and they don't have to include, you know, legacy characters. They can just kind of create whatever they want, and if they want, they can bring in, you know, an iconic character if they want, but it doesn't matter. And to me, those are like the best Star Wars has been in years. It's just being able to have full creativity. There's a couple restrictions, but in general, you kind of get to do whatever you want. And yeah, I want to see it more in Zelda. I want to see more remixing what we know. I do love a core classic experience, but it's like we said, I want to see more Beetle. I want to see more Malon. I want Malon to come back. That'd be great.
I think the last time, I don't know for sure, but I think the last time we got a truly displaced setting and story that wasn't a remix of an already existing map, I want to say is Skyward Sword. Because, like, obviously Skyward Sword, we have the origin of the Master Sword and the goddesses and all that kind of stuff, all like the origin of all the lore. But I don't know, and like the setting, it's very far removed. It's the newest map we've gotten. Link Between Worlds and Echoes of Wisdom both remixed Link to the Past's map, and then we have Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom that both share a map. Not counting Triforce Heroes, obviously.
Right.
Which just doesn't take place in Hyrule at all. So
no.
It was kind of like they were like, this is the earliest in the timeline, but by doing that, they were also giving themselves permission to include whatever they want. I think
Right.
there's Gorons in that game, but there's tons of races we've never seen before and have never seen since, right?
Right. Rest in peace, the Pirella.
Oh,
the Pirella.
I don't think we'll ever see the Pirella again.
Little jellyfish people.
I
want to bring
them.
back Kiwis, though. I don't know what they're thinking.
Kiwis are adorable, yes.
I guess Koroks are the equivalent. I don't know.
Mogmas are great. I want Mogmas to come back, if
Sure.
only because it gives me an excuse to use a cheesy New York accent anytime one pops up.
Nice.
It's the funnest thing.
And yeah, that's a good point. I wasn't even thinking about the different races, but yeah, like taking it that far back in the timeline, you have way more range to just throw elements in there and just see what works.
And even then, you can take the inspiration that has been had from previous games and still bring that in. We talked last month about how Telma's resistance in Twilight Princess is reflected in a couple of characters that you find in the Lumpy Pumpkin in Skyward Sword. And if you want to take that even further, you have the owner of the Lumpy Pumpkin and his daughter. And I'll tell you what, that Lumpy Pumpkin owner reminds me of Talon, no question. Even if his daughter doesn't look very Malin-ish. So there's always connections.
Yeah, I mean, you have like Terran and Marin, right? Which are kind of, it's sort of, but kind of, but not really, Talon and Malon.
Right.
And then, yeah, you're right. I think we see other little hints, little equivalents, or at least just inspired characters.
Which Terran and Marin came first.
Oh my gosh,
actually,
you're right.
they're the originators of that duo.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're so
cheerful,
right.
Slightly Mario-esque dad taking care of his daughter. It was very much very independent.
Also on that line, kind of, sorta, the Toon Link art style, pretty sure existed in Four Swords before it was used in Wind Waker.
Did Four Swords come out first?
Four Swords Adventures came out after.
Not Four Swords Adventures.
I know. I'm just trying to remember. 4 Swords Adventures came after Wind Waker, but I believe 4 Swords came before Wind Waker.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah, that's a good point. Huh.
I didn't crunch the numbers on like months, but I think the years barely line up.
They were pretty close. They were okay, I'm looking at the North American release dates, but
the original 4 Swords came out in December of 2002, which means
that's when Wind Waker came out, was December 2002.
Which makes sense because they were also advertising the whole. No, I would say Wind Waker came out in 2000.
Well, 2003 in America.
Japan release was December 13th, 2002 for Wind Waker.
Yeah.
So at the very least, they were being developed at the same time.
So some cross DNA there. I wonder what other lovely bits of trivia we'll find out through the course of this podcast today. I'm all about it.
Researching all of the things.
Backing it up real quick, we had talked about characters somewhat being inspired or remixed in future titles, like with the Lumpy Pumpkin duo and Talon Malon. That got me thinking recently about Kilton from Breath of the Wild and his brother, kind of, and now Tafton from Age of Imprisonment. Like, I feel like Kilton is somewhat the Tingle stand-in now. Probably not for future games, I assume, but for the Wild era.
Sure. The weird one, basically, is what you mean.
The weird guy with the crazy hyperfixation.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I will give you weird guy with hyperfixation. He's not Tingle.
No, I'm not saying he is Tingle.
Tingle is way too money obsessed.
Right.
No, he's the equivalent. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. I think I can see the argument.
It was just like a weird parallel that I drew out of nowhere.
That's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
It's one of the cool things about Zelda, how we can see characters in other locations. They echo across eternity, which really led to our conversation last month about are we sure that it's just Link and Zelda and Ganondorf caught up in this never-ending cycle? Or is the entirety of Hyrule mixed up in this? Are they just perpetually locked in a never-ending cycle?
Who knows?
Who knows?
The blood of the goddess, the spirit of the hero, and the person that tends to the horses.
And Beetle.
And Beetle.
And Beetle.
He gets to reincarnate too. Don't forget about him.
Well, thank you so much to Caitlin Druid for opening this page of the Bomber's Notebook. And we're going to head on into Zelda Study, a series where we examine the history of The Legend of Zelda to bring you some fascinating or just plain weird trivia. And speaking of characters that cycle in and over again, Aaron Talon in this edition of Zelda Study is shining a light on one of the oldest enemies that we have ever experienced in The Legend of Zelda, dating all the way back to the original title on the NES. And when you see them in the NES, you just think, oh my gosh, it's a living blob. Like, I couldn't not tell you what any of the monsters or anything in the original Zelda was named for the longest time. Like, aside from, like, Goma and Dodongo, I don't remember any of the names of the other bosses. And then all of these little enemies. It's... okay. A Zol. That's the name?
You don't remember Zelda staple Aquamentus?
The only reason I even know the name right now is because I happen to have a random clip show up on my Facebook feed of fighting Aquamentus. This is, and it was a clip from that.
You need to brush up and watch the original Legend of Zelda commercial where there's the crazy man yelling the different enemy types from the original Zelda, like Tektite.
Really? You know? That's amazing. I kind of want to do that just for the crazy guy.
It's classic. Yeah, no, this is this article was about Zols, and same thing. I don't really pay attention to the names, but I was like, oh yeah, Zol was in Echoes of Wisdom. I didn't know that was a thing, a legacy thing. Like, it's like the Berenstain Bears paradox. I'm like, wasn't it always Choo-Choos? I think it was always Choo-Choos. So it was good to be corrected this week.
Well, that is kind of the question I was asking. Yes, they're called Choo-Choos in Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild, but it's still just a blob with eyes. Are we sure that they're different species?
That is something that I kind of had to like reason with embarrassingly late in my Zelda career, because I didn't play Zelda 1 or conceptualize Zelda 1 until I had already played Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. And I just thought, I just thought every gel monster was a choo-choo. So it was kind of like a wake-up call.
It's all in the name. Because even then, like, you have the giant chews in Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom that can split into smaller ones, just like you have Zols splitting into gels. Which
I didn't realize that either, that they had different names.
Yeah, it's a little weird that they chose a different name for it, dividing, especially because, well, I guess back then also, there wasn't as ingrained video game tropes as there is today. You know, it's just gamer language today that if you see a giant eyeball, you shoot it, right? Or that if there's a big gelatinous monster, it's going to divide into little monsters, right? We see that in tons of video games. It's kind of a given. So maybe back then they were still figuring it out. And they were like, oh yeah. And if it divides, it becomes gels. This will be different.
It also should be pointed out that in the original Zelda, Zols were not the only character or enemy that would split when struck. I forget what they were called, but Keese were not just Keese by themselves. They could be these weird, jumpy vampire guys.
That's right.
And if your sword wasn't strong enough, you would hit it, and it would split into two Keese that you then had to deal with. You looking that up, Cayden?
I am, yes.
Awesome. Because if you weren't going to, I would.
Zora's Wall Master. Zelda 1 had Wall Masters?
Zelda 1 had wall masters. Oh my gosh, they were the most annoying thing. They would come out of the wall and then move around the screen, not necessarily going towards you. They usually hung out on the edges of walls for the most part, and then they would slide back into the wall. And then they'd come out somewhere else. And if they grabbed you, back to the beginning of the dungeon, which really sucked in some of those places.
I believe the enemy we're talking about is Vire. Vire. I do believe.
That sounds right.
I believe so as well.
Some ugly dudes.
They are very ugly dudes, and they've changed Vires over the course of Zelda. They've become a thing to be reckoned with in both Link's Awakening and the Oracle games.
Man, I love the Oracle art style for the official artwork.
Oracle's is great, both of them. It is time for them to be remade so that they can be updated for stuff.
There's a lot of enemies stuck in Zelda 1 or early Zelda that I really wish got like a modern, like the Gleeok in Tears of the Kingdom,
Yeah.
brought back after so long, got a really good revamp. I would love to see that for so many of those early Zelda monsters because there's so many that got forgotten.
Were either of you terrified when they introduced the Gleeok, thinking, oh no, we're going to have heads flying around attacking us? Because I know I was.
I forgot that was a thing in Zelda 1 by the time I played Tears of the Kingdom. So I would, if that did happen, Lord have mercy, I would cry.
You know, you said that Tears brought back the Gleeok, but technically it's predated by Cadence of Hyrule bringing the Gleeokenspiel.
Gleeokenspiel! Yeah!
We love the Gleeokenspiel!
It was a great fight. Good music.
Oh, yeah.
And if we want to split that even further, there was also a Gleeok in Oracle of Seasons.
What about the little three-headed thing in Skyward Sword that you have to hit all three heads at once? Was that a Gleeok technically, or was that something else?
I don't think so.
In Skyward Sword?
Yes, Skyward Sword. There was this particular enemy it was a Hydra. I think it was specifically called a Hydra.
Okay.
It was
Gotcha.
kind of a mummified-ish looking snake dude, and you had to hit all three at once in order for it to die.
Right. Tune in next time for us to go deep into the Gleeokenspiel.
The Gleeokenspiel.
I want to see an article written on that one.
It's called a Staldra.
Staldra, yeah.
Staldra, since it's
Mummified.
undead and the skeleton heads, and then
Okay.
Hydra, so Staldra.
Gotcha.
Echoes of Wisdom did a really good job, I think, of bringing back enemies. Obviously with the Zols, as we have here, but there were a lot of deep cuts. Like the Scorpion guys, Arakas, I think they're called, among others. But yeah, Echoes of Wisdom's bestiary, it's pretty deep cuts.
And for good reason too. You know, you're using them, right? Like it's pretty. It has more reason than any other game to include some deep cuts, include some interesting or weird monsters. And I don't know if the general community wants another Echoes of Wisdom, but if they decided to continue it, I would really enjoy that aspect of collecting more monsters. It's basically like a Pokemon game.
And that was a really big appeal for the game for me, is just the monster collecting aspect.
Oh, me too, 100%.
It was just fun. Like, oh, I got these flying fire keys. Let me just whip out a couple ice keys summons.
The puzzle-solving nature of Echoes of Wisdom is so in line with Zelda as an entity. It still felt very much like a Zelda adventure, and it had the variety of gameplay that honestly probably outshines in a lot of ways even Echoes of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
It's very distinct.
For the sheer variety that you get to do and the creativity that lends to.
Yeah, it's underrated for sure. I wonder, I think it'll be fondly remembered. I think give it another 5 years, I think people are really going to be like, hey man, I wish they'd make another one of those, you know?
That's how it usually goes. There's big hype when it first happens, and then it kind of lulls.
It's the cycle, and then people saying, oh, it actually wasn't that good.
Usually people start trying to poke holes in why it actually sucked, and then 5 years after that, it's, oh, this game was great. Skyward Sword has more or less kind of gone through that cycle at this point. We're probably due for the Tears of the Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom really wasn't as good as we think it was.
Oh, I'm already seeing it.
They all do that.
We've been hitting that for a hot minute. We've been in that phase for a while. It's hard out here.
It's hard to be a fan. Just let me fan.
You're not truly a fan unless you complain about it, though.
There's some truth to that. I could poke holes in Tears of the Kingdom, but that's not going to stop me from enjoying it.
I have two prominent criticisms about Tears of the Kingdom, but we're not here to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, so I won't get into that.
That's right.
Now. But no game is perfect. Doesn't mean we can't love them.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much to Aaron Talon for bringing us into this aspect of Zelda's study. And we are going to head over to Yuga's Art Gallery, a series in which we highlight our favorite artwork from the Legend of Zelda community. Some official artwork, but mostly that being provided by talented artists from across the fandom. And we are looking today at some very gorgeous art by an artist by the name of Zimi. Hopefully I have pronounced that correctly. And it is like I said, a gorgeous piece of Princess Zelda from Twilight Princess. And the piece itself, well, I don't know if it has a specific thing. The title of the column is called Sorrow Flowing Down. When it comes to Zelda, anybody who's looking at the game from the outside, the fandom, can very easily mistake Zelda as a stereotypical damsel in distress type of character. You rarely see her in-game until the end. Some games, she's not even present at all. But when you start playing it, you begin to realize just how much of an active force Zelda is in her kingdom. And how much she goes through. And we can start that just focusing here as to what Twilight Princess's Zelda is going through to warrant a title such as Sorrow Flowing Down.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Looking at this piece kind of reminded me how much I love this incarnation of Princess Zelda. She for sure is not seen she doesn't have as much screen time as Zelda's in other games, but her presence is still felt. She is, like you just said, a very active role in the story. Her decision that you get to witness in a flashback affects all of the events that happen in Twilight Princess, and you can tell that it's very good in its visual language of showing her basically mourning the loss of her kingdom when you first encounter her, and this piece of art really does a great job capturing that.
Something that's brought up, and something that I also did notice, the title being Sorrow Flowing Down is depicted very well, in the sense that there's a lot of downward motion, a lot of vertical lines. Obviously, Zelda's facing down. I love that title, and it's very fitting. And yeah, the shape language, the lines, it's all very, very emblematic of what the theme is.
So before we get too much caught up in the title that Ellie Appleby gave this column, it should be pointed out that the art itself is simply titled Princess Zelda, Twilight Princess.
Oh.
We don't want to put too many words into Izimi's mouth, though I am sure that they would love us attaching as much cultural and emotional significance into the art like the hoity-toity art critics we obviously are not. So
let's say it's a great description
right.
of what the art is trying to convey.
Title aside, I think what I said is still pretty applicable. It's all very down, and I think that's really good.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. When I describe the characteristics of Princess Zelda, most of the characteristics apply across incarnations of the character. And I've appreciated the fact that with all of their differences, the core elements of what makes Zelda Zelda has remained throughout the series. If there's one thing that sets Twilight Princess's character apart, in my opinion, is that no other Princess Zelda has ever seemed more regal. She is, more than any other incarnation, the picture of pure royalty. Many people have observed the way that she governs, the way she is in charge. This is more than just a princess. This is a queen. And she behaves like it. The weight of the responsibility of her kingdom is very much on her shoulders. Obviously in this piece of artwork, but in the game as well. You never see her smile in the game. I'm sure if we want to bring the manga in, which people really like to because they absolutely love the Twilight Princess manga, she does there. But as far as the game is concerned, we've only seen her smile, I think, once. And that is when she is sacrificing her light to keep Midna alive.
There's a bit at the end when she gives Link the light, or she summons the light arrows, and she's saying, "Thank you for putting up with me," or something along those lines. It's a faint smile, but for the majority of the time, she's very dour, and things are looking bleak.
Right. She has a presence, like you said, and if we already know that the Legend of Zelda movie, we know the casting, we can hint or we can guess at the story probably being original. But before any of that was announced, I would have said, this is the Zelda I want to see on screen. You know, there's a lot of Princess Zeldas I love, but I think Twilight Princess in particular has something really fits film well in its pacing and in its narrative, and that's why there's 11 manga volumes. it works very well. It's very easy to flesh out, but yeah, great piece of art, really wonderful depiction of a really great character.
I'm getting emotional just thinking about this.
Absolute cinema.
Absolute cinema.
Right.
Well, no, it's because we've kind of edged along the topic, but the reason why Zelda is as she is depicted in this artwork, the responsibility that is on her, the fact that the forces of Zant and Twilight have come upon them seemingly out of nowhere and with nothing immediately available to them to turn the tide. She is left with an impossible choice in order to try and keep her people alive. And because of that, she essentially condemns her people to a life in the shadows. And the mocking way in which Midna refers to her at the beginning of the game as the Twilight Princess is something that should sting for at least Zelda a lot more than she shows. And I think that's because, again, that weight that is on her. She is trying, even imprisoned as she is, to try and find a way to solve, or at the very least, take responsibility, as is befitting her position and her role in all of this. I can't necessarily make this claim now, but that's simply because we have seen so much of Breath of the Wild Zelda across 2 mainline games and 2 spin-offs. But before her, I would have said that nobody has suffered more, because she is living with those decisions on a regular basis, as opposed to being sealed away.
I think that's a fair take. Yeah, that's definitely a fair take. With Midna calling her the Twilight Princess. Obviously, there's double meaning, right, with the term Twilight Princess as a name for Zelda, but also Midna's title. But thinking about it now, I'm thinking like there's a term called like in your twilight years, late in life. Obviously, this is applied to Zelda because she's not old, but as the Twilight Princess, she's at the end of her stage she's not princess anymore. Basically, she's at the end of her time as princess, and thinking about that as well as everything she's been through, it just it's upsetting. I'm getting emotional now. Dang.
It's what art does to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks very much to IceZeme for painting this painting. However you composed it, it looks brilliant. And thank you so much for that. And thank you to Ellie Appleby for displaying this piece of Yuga's art gallery.
IceZeme also has a full gallery of amazing Zelda artwork as well.
The link is in the column, and we link all of our columns in the description of our podcast. So be sure to check them out. And so we move on to our feature of the month. Jared Richardson, you are our featured writer, and thanks again for coming along and talking voices with us today.
Yes.
It's the only way you get this podcast, is under voices. We are all old enough to have been around on the internet during the time leading up to Breath of the Wild, when we learned that for the very first time we would have actual scripted voice acting. That was an entertaining time, wasn't it?
It was. It was really wild.
Breath of the Wild.
No pun intended. It was
always intend your puns.
Oh, okay. I'll own up to it more. It really was. It felt there was so many things about Breath of the Wild that felt so different, felt so new. But like voice acting was the one that like when you watched that trailer, that story trailer, it hits really hard. And there's a little clip of Zelda in the first trailer as well. But it was kind of like, whoa, this is different. You know, we're so accustomed to what had been before that. And this article is kind of my attempt at honoring that bygone age of what we used to have.
Just the happy little shrieks and grinnervers and ho 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 and from every other person that we get in this whole thing.
That's right. So, yeah, I'm always fascinated with how limitations can breed creativity. And from the N64 onward, we see a lot of, well, we don't have great sound quality, and we certainly don't have budget to voice act all these characters unless you're Square Enix and you do some bonkers things shortly after this era. But you get by conveying to the player certain things through little sound bites, like you just said, grunts and shrieks and whoops and yelps and hyahs.
When it comes to that limitations in creativity that you're talking about, I'm casting my mind back to that era, and the Nintendo 64 was there and it was amazing. But when did it happen?
98?
1994.
Oh.
The original PlayStation. We can talk forever about how when it comes to the things that so many hardcore gamers are so passionate about, processing speed, console power, graphics, all of those things, Sony has had, and by extension to a similar extent, Xbox has always had Nintendo beat in every single one. Nobody can look at the GameCube and say it was better than, at least in terms as a sheer computing machine, better than the PlayStation 3, which was, I believe, the same generation at that point. Nobody can look at the N64 and say it was better than, in terms of just compatible processing and whatnot, as the PlayStation 2. And they've had voice acting in those games nearly since the beginning. I thought of Spyro right off the top of my head.
Mm.
And there had been complaints about why does Sony do all of this cool advanced stuff and Nintendo doesn't. We heard it when the Switch 2 was announced. Oh, well, at least they finally got such and such graphics. They finally have this stuff.
Voice chat, yeah.
To me, it's funny to consider, what do fans think they want, what they actually want, and then what contributes truly to your gameplay, or at least when it comes to voice acting, your storytelling experience. What do you need in order to tell the story that you want to tell?
It's funny, when you said that, I thought you were going to finish that sentence by saying what fans want and what they deserve. But in all seriousness, yeah, I really, truly think if Nintendo really prioritized story and voice acting, it would be to the series' detriment, especially back in the time when they were still experimenting with new ideas, still trying to find what makes a good 3D game, what makes a good GameCube and Wii and so on. And I truly believe that Beetle and Navi and some of the other characters I mentioned would not be as fondly remembered had they been fully voiced. A lot of it comes from the charm of seeing them, hearing a little accompanying sound clip as you read their dialogue. It's economical for the developers, but it also adds a lot to their personality when we get to hear these really funny sound bites that presumably a lot of them are voiced by the developers themselves, right? I want to know, is there any characters that stick out in your mind that you're like, oh yeah, those sound clips live rent free in my head? Like, what I list some iconic ones in this article, but what do you think of when you think of pre Breath of the Wild Zelda voice acting?
Specifically for Zelda, and I think you bring it up in the Beetle section. The Salvatore guy, the sploosh, kaboom, like that.
Everyone's favorite / least favorite game.
Absolutely iconic.
I hated playing that mini game, but the kabooms made it worth it.
It made it you want to keep playing it.
The man is a struggling
it.
actor, and it's obvious from the get-go. The first three that you have in here, Navi, Beetle, and Midna, were all three that I would have thought of immediately. Midna is a fun one, with the simple fact that, as you pointed out, she is actually saying words.
In English, no less.
We just don't know because it's all jumbled up to make the cute little voice clips. But they have, thank you to Juno Gaming for showing me this kind of stuff where you have it unscrambled. Not only is it actual words, but it's actual phrases that are related to the thing that is actually going on. It's like they actually
Quite
scripted
often.
this thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to just, hey, say some things. We're going to mix these up so they don't mean anything later.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Again, if they did full voice acting for that game, we would not get that from Midna. We would not get this amazingly cool approach to how we hear her voice, because she's from another realm. She sounds different. She speaks a different language. It's a combination of, it's not just the voice acting, it's the sound design too, right? But that creative choice really makes her memorable instead of, just a standard fully voiced, maybe with a little reverb approach.
Oh God, you mentioned the fact that she's probably speaking a different language. It's one of those things that never translates well into a video game, because you need to be able to understand everything that's going on in order to execute the game properly. I've played with this concept a couple of times where you have someone who speaks, at the very least, broken English or doesn't speak English at all. And you have to try and figure out what it is that they're talking about with only kind of bits and baubles of pointing. You're like half miming the whole time because you have no idea how to effectively communicate anything.
Yeah, your brain fills in the gaps in some ways, if that makes sense. Much like how a game with a pixel art style, yeah, there's not going to be a ton of detail in that little sprite, but you kind of fill in the gaps as you see it move and emote, and you kind of imagine this world even more detailed than it is. I view that way with the voice acting too. Even if a character only has a couple sound clips that get reused through the game, it's enough to give you a sense of the character itself. And I work with voice actors in my profession, and it's always such a pleasure to see them work. I've never worked with voice actors in this capacity, where it's doing a lot of efforts and grunts and yells. I would love to put it on my bucket list. But what's kind of cool about this is, even though I'm saying, oh, it's this bygone era, Age of Imprisonment is just another example of how we're desensitized to having full voice acting, 3 hours of cutscenes. Like, it's not just that I'm, reminiscing on the past. This approach is still technically around, right? We get little bits and bops in between those fully acted cutscenes, and it's still effective. And I think the reason for that is it's effective. It still helps us understand the character when we hear, again, Beetle in Tears of the Kingdom. He needs those little sound clips for us to kind of understand who he is. And I don't think we'll ever truly see that go away. I think it's here to stay.
Yeah, I really hope so.
The way that they stick in your head, as you mentioned, as someone who likes to dabble in voices myself, you don't need much to get it in your head. I think of Beetle's laugh and it's already immediately like, oh, I can totally do that. I get this voice, and that's all you need. Suddenly, you can read the entire text in that voice, and you don't need anything else.
Yep.
We talk about how great the storytelling is in Zelda and how cinematic that it often gets. And I have critiqued personally the lack of storytelling in Zelda games, with the complete understanding that because it is a game, it cannot be a truly cinematic experience. And it's almost as if that little bit of soundbite is doing a ton more lifting than I would originally give it credit for in that kind of storytelling, because it is providing just enough sound so that when I'm reading what they are saying, I can read it in their voice.
Yes, precisely. And with that wonderful Beetle impression, we will now begin a Zelda impression contest. I hope you're both prepared.
All right, let's do this.
No. I actually did come prepared with a little something. It's very short, if you don't mind me sharing it.
Ooh, let's do it.
I have here with me, this is not the ideal to play this, but on my phone, I'm going to play 3 clips, and I would like both of you, again, in the spirit of talking about limited voice acting, or pre-Breath of the Wild voice acting, I would like to play a clip and have you both guess what game it's from. Are you down for that?
Yes.
We will do that, and I will, this is a note for myself, to grab the clips myself so that those of you who are listening, you can try as well in a little bit better quality.
Sure. Sounds great. Okay. Well, we'll start we'll start a little easier and go harder. Here is sound effect number 1. Please, Cayden.
That's Skull Kid from Majora's Mask.
That is correct. That is Skull Kid / Majora from Majora's Mask. Very well done. Very iconic, I would say.
I am very happy I got that right, because Majora's Mask is my number 1 Zelda game.
You always want to have your favorites down.
Yeah. On my show, Level With Us, that when we do a little quiz, we call it Who's the Fake Fan? That's the name of our segment. Because if you get something wrong, you suddenly have all of the internet aware of the fact that you're not actually a fan. So well done proving yourself a Majora's Mask fan.
Anything to not be called a fraud. I cannot afford that.
This guy's a faker.
Okay.
All right.
Here is number 2.
Yay! That is one of the killer bees I don't know their names is the thing. But it's definitely one of the killer bees. I want to say it's the head one.
In what game?
Oh, in Wind Waker.
Okay, and what about you, Cayden? Do you have anything to add to that? Do you have a guess?
That was gonna be my guess. The gang of kids from Wind Waker.
This is from the Wind Waker, correct? And I would have gone with this one.
Sploosh!
But
we love Sploosh.
little too iconic, maybe a little too
bit.
easy. Okay, I've got one more. This one's, I think, a little trickier, but let's see how you guys do. This is number 3.
Agatha.
That is correct. Well done.
Dang. My guess was going to be I wasn't going to get it right, but my guess was going to be the fairy queen from Wind Waker.
Oh yeah, no, that would have been a good
a
good pick
guess.
for sure. Yeah, no, that is Agatha. Very well done. You have both proven yourselves not fake fans.
Yay!
Well done. So glad.
Yes.
And then also just as a bonus, I wanted to ask both of you. This is not part of the quiz or anything, but at the end of the article, I included a little Easter egg of a soundbite from Breath of the Wild. Have either of you listened to that?
I just listened to it again.
If not, I would like to play it for you. Cayden, have you heard this?
Yes.
You have? Okay. So it's, for the listeners, in Breath of the Wild, obviously we are treated of full voice acting for the first time, but there is still little sound bites like we talked about when you talk to characters. What's interesting to me is how that all of these grunts, they could have just kept the originals in and then changed the language dubs on just the cutscenes, but no, they redo all of the efforts and grunts for each language. And so for the old man who you meet in the tutorial on the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, he has this delightful little thing he does when he flies in, and I'd like to play it now. This is in Italian. This is the Italian old man dub for Breath of the Wild.
He sounds like he is terrified of hang gliding, and he's still doing it.
Really scared of fights.
It's so bizarre to me. I want to know the story behind this. I want to find the localizers, because every other instance of that in every other language is just ho or hey, but this one is it's so drawn out. And I wonder if they were like looking at when it's used in the game and they're like, oh, we have actually a lot of time for this sound effect to play out. Let's just milk the heck out of it. Or if it's like, no, this is what we sound like in Italian. And that's what all the comments are like. I'm Italian, and this is exactly what old men sound like. So just so fun. Thank you for letting me share that with you all.
That was great. Thank you so much for that. That was a fun set of sounds to listen to. When I was looking again at the list, your number 1 here is Ganondorf in Wind Waker, and his laugh is quite something to behold, as he is truly crazy, as Zelda points out. But as I was thinking about it, that is not my number 1 Ganondorf voice line. Mine is Ocarina of Time. Because when he is fighting you, he goes all out. When he's specifically when he's launching his lightning bolts at you. It's just, holy cow. He is. And then when he's transforming into Ganon again, whoever his actor is, he is going all out.
It's good stuff for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, for me in the Wind Waker, it really is just, it's the moment itself, right? It's this iteration is very reserved, very commanding. You do not see him let loose with his emotions very much at all. and then you see him have basically this psychotic break right at the end, and it's very pronounced. And Matt Mercer gets a similar moment in Tears of the Kingdom, and I do love Matt Mercer, but I don't think it really holds a candle to this really impactful, wonderful scene. But I mean, truth is, we're treated to lots of great Ganondorfs and a lot of great Ganondorf fights. And yeah, it's you said that he didn't hold anything back, and that's what I love. That's what I love in a good vocal performance. Someone who fries their throat, getting the absolute best growls and maniacal laughter. It makes for a great, convincing villain.
As an aside, I was at a High School Musical late last month.
Ganondorf was in High School Musical?
I know, right? No. So I'm at this musical, and I'm watching these high school students perform this musical. And knowing what I know now about performing and enunciating all this stuff with the stuff that I do here on the podcast and streaming and everything else, I could tell which of the high schoolers were really letting loose and which ones were holding themselves back, whether because of nerves or what have you. It's that emotional outburst that really makes a lot of characters memorable, a lot of actors memorable, is their ability to fully let go. And we mostly see that in terms of battle animation, because that is the obvious situation in which you're really going to let yourself go. It's just that energy in what they are doing. Moving that to the side just a little bit, there is still one major moblin in the room when we discuss voice acting, and that is our main character. Where do you two stand on the subject of our voiceless protagonist?
When it comes to the games, obviously, I'm fully on board with him talking in the movie. That's, perfectly fine. Obviously, I don't want him to be like a chatty Cathy, like making quips every 5 seconds, like in the cartoon. But I mean, we got to slip in an "excuse me, princess" at least once. We got
Please. Just as an aside, just let him mumble it under his breath or something.
At least once. But obviously,
I could live with a mumble. That's fine.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
For the movie, you just make him like soft-spoken, talking when he needs to. But not super conversational. That's my ideal. When it comes to the games, I think I would also be okay with something along those lines. Kind of like my closest example that I always bring up is Cloud from the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. He's not conversing, mainly Remake, not Rebirth, because he's more comfortable in Rebirth. But in Remake, he's not super chatty. He talks when he needs to, and he usually keeps it short. If Link was something along those lines in the games, I'd be okay with it. But ideally, I think he should stay silent. Maybe giving one-word responses. But I think keeping him silent would be good for the games.
Absolutely. I have a lot of thoughts on this. I'll try and condense it. But there is a balance when it comes to having a silent protagonist, because you really want the player to feel like they are that character. Link is a character, right? There's a lot of different approaches in a lot of video games to how this is done, right? We have characters who don't speak often, like maybe Master Chief, or I'm trying to think of another good example. You have some who do not speak much. You have some who speak just like a regular character, and honestly, like, it fleshes them out, but if you're playing as them, you do feel a disconnect, right? Where I stand is that I think Link is at his best when he is silent, but there's a given explanation for it. I really, really love how that was an element to the story in Echoes of Wisdom. They gave a reason for Link losing his voice. I also really love Breath of the Wild when you read Zelda's diary and you find out, well, wait, she just said that Link talked. Okay, so Link does talk, But most of the time he doesn't. And most of the time when he's with her, he doesn't. And suddenly all the cutscenes make sense. This is something he chooses. He chooses to be quiet. I agreed, Cayden. Would love it if the movie is that way. I know he has to talk probably, but let's keep it minimal. Let this be part of his character. Let it be something he chooses to do. The last thing I'll say is I think something that nailed it perfectly is to bring up another franchise, if that's okay, on the ZeldaCast, Metroid Dread.
I was just going to say that.
Okay,
Yep.
Great. Fantastic. I'm glad you're in
Metroid
agreement
as well.
Yeah, we have a great example of two extremes. We have the Prime games where she is 100% silent. I mean, she'll scream when she gets hurt. That's about it. Prime 4, people have been pointing out, I'm playing through it right now, it's a little weird. There's a lot of chatty companions who ask her questions and she doesn't respond. And it's like, yeah, she's a stoic character. It does feel a little weird. She doesn't really acknowledge them, right? It feels a little weird, even though that's a creative choice. On the other hand, we have Other M, which a lot of people have a lot of opinions about. You hear, I think it's a little overblown. A lot of her dialogue is internal, so she actually is not talking much in the presence of others, but she does talk in the game, and people didn't love that. It was a lot. It was a little too much, right? And so to me, Metroid Dread is the perfect middle ground where silent, strong character with a wonderful, who's really good at, has a wonderful presence. She's very skilled at what she does. She doesn't need to say anything. You know what she means. But then there's a moment where she has to converse with someone who's not an AI, who is addressing to her directly, and she says one line to him back in a Chozo language, which I think was another really brilliant idea. To like, it sent chills down my spine to hear her speak, and it felt earned. And then she also has this amazing shriek right at the end of the game in a very pivotal moment. But that to me is the ideal. I would not mind in a game if we got a little something out of Link, but it would have to be treated very delicately. Maybe in a very important moment, he says one word. Maybe he says no to in the final battle when he's asked, "Will you surrender?" I would like that. I think people would go bonkers over it. But in general, as long as it's a part of his character, I love Link being silent. So thanks for listening to my TED Talk, everyone.
I give TED Talks pretty much every month. You're fine. What you said at the end basically summarizes my thoughts on the matter. This is a question of characterization. We can look at the Zelda movie. We can look at every iteration of Link, or any other character for that matter, and we can look at the concept of Link being voiced, I should say, in future iterations. Any choice that you make in regards to how a character behaves, everything from how they dress, to how they act, to even how or whether they speak, should serve to fill in that character. And so Link being silent has, for the most part, added to his character. Not just because we're used to it, but because we see Link as the epitome of courage. That is what he does. Regardless of what he is being faced with, he will face it. And that is part of what he does. And being silent contributes to that. If you are to have him speak in the movie or elsewhere, how does what he says and how he says it contribute to not just the plot, but to the character? Is that what he would say? Is that how he would say it? And that ultimately boils down to what kind of character is Link. I've started, I will get back to it, going through on stream when I am playing a game. Currently, I've done it just with Ocarina of Time, talking about, okay, if I am going to flesh out this story and make it a little bit more narratively driven, how would this play out? And the first thing that I have to determine with that is, how does Link behave? What is Link like? Since he has always been a stand-in, essentially, for us as the player, you have to instead kind of infer from the things that are happening around him how this Link would act. Skyward Sword Link is going to act very different from Ocarina of Time Link, even though they are still Link. And how does the voices correspond to that? And you can say that with any character, and they've done a really good job thus far with the examples that we have of selecting people to voice Zelda, Rauru, Sonya, all of these characters. Can they do it? They certainly can. They've proven that they can do it. It simply requires the same kind of care and attention to who Link is as a character. And do those words actually contribute to him, and not just we're giving him something to say because he has to, in quotation marks, say something. Because as we've seen for the last 40 years, he doesn't have to say anything and still be Link.
That's right.
Yeah, with Link, he's probably the character with the most need for like a delicate approach when it comes to giving a voice. Or obviously he has a voice for like his efforts and stuff, but with dialogue, it's like probably the most delicate case in the gaming industry to give a voice. I think I'd say he's one of, if not the most popular silent protagonist.
He's probably the de facto silent protagonist in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
And a pool that is continuously shrinking.
Yeah.
I have my issues with silent protagonists on a grand scale when it comes to RPGs specifically. Mainly the ones that do have voice and they speak lines in battle, in combat sequences, but in dialogue they say nothing. Mainly talking about like Persona or Fire Emblem games before Engage, with the Avatar characters mostly. Link is a very special case, obviously. I do want Link to be his own character. He has these elements across many games. In Skyward Sword, he's an aloof dude who sleeps in and has Zelda bail him out of issues. In in Breath of the Wild, he's a knight with a lot of responsibility, so he makes himself be quiet for the ease of others. He has all these elements, and I would love like a game to deep dive into Link more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we all really enjoy it when they flesh him out more as a character and not just a blank slate. But there's a balance, right? You could go too far. I just thought of other examples being like Gordon Freeman from Half-Life, or you mentioned RPGs. I think one of the best examples I've ever seen of diegetic, intentional silent protagonist is in an indie game called Crosscode, where it's a key part of the story where the main character cannot say anything, but over the time she slowly gets words that she's able to say in this simulation, and then she can only use those limited amount of words in conversation. So she's still playing the silent protagonist, occasionally chimes in, and it's part of the story. It's an important part of the story, which I think is really clever, a really cool play on that trope. But agreed, when we see Link talking to the headmaster in Skyward Sword, even we don't hear him, that makes me be like, oh yeah, he is feeling things, right? He's interacting. Nintendo's getting more and more comfortable with him expressing and emoting. We see a lot of that in Wind Waker, a lot of that in Breath of the Wild, at least in gameplay, right? Where he's shivering in the cold. I want to see more of it.
My biggest frustration when it comes to silent protagonists comes in Genshin Impact, which I have been a longtime player of and still love it to death. And I have been constantly frustrated by the fact that they treat your main protagonist, your traveler, as a silent protagonist, and yet not as a silent protagonist. It's only in recent times that they have been allowing the main character to give more voices in dialogue in the situation, as opposed to just having your fairy companion speak for you. The frustrating part of that is because we have seen in the game so many things that make this main character a part of what is happening. It is not just that we are the avatar for the characters and the waifus that we're collecting to play in this gacha game that we have. They have a legitimate reason for being there and something that is crucial to the plot of the story involved. And yet, are they a character or are they not? And if they are a character, then let them be a character.
Yeah, it's struggle. It's a struggle when it's a self-insert, and a lot of people, I think the developers of Persona and Genshin, they really want it to be your persona, so they don't want to accidentally be like, oh, but what if the player doesn't act that way, right? I think they're a little too afraid to give voice clips, and then you come into these weird situations where, oh, Persona's getting an anime, they have to give the main character a voice. Like, how do we approach that, right? Like, because people play the game differently, even though the overall story is the same, right?
And with Persona, we'll use 5 as an example because it's the most recent. I would at least for any of the dialogue options that you're given, at least for them to say those dialogue options. In Metaphor Fantasia, the newest Atlas game, it's very Persona Shin Megami Tensei adjacent, and the main character, you're able to hear them say those dialogue options. They're mostly a silent protagonist, kind of. Actually, I don't think they are at all. I think they speak all their lines.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
I believe they speak all of their lines. At least they speak all of the dialogue options you're able to choose. I have to double check that, but I think they speak all of their lines. Another one that weirdly enough, I don't like in the original game, but in a spin-off, they get it right, is Fire Emblem Three Houses. With Byleth, they are a defined character. They have their own backstory. They have reasons for doing what they do. They have a family, and they don't speak outside of battle quotes and victory lines and critical hits, which they have a voice. They speak often, but we just don't hear it in any of the supports or any of the cutscenes. But in Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, they do. They have fully voiced. And I'm just like, dang, this would have been great.
Baldur's Gate 3 has the exact same problem. You get to choose what your voice is. You have 4 different options. I think it's even more than 4 different options. It's like 6 or 8. And yet, aside from little commentary things as you're moving from point A to point B or casting a spell, that's it. Why did you bother giving this person a voice in the first place? It doesn't inform my character at all if I'm just using the exact same lines in these generic situations. There was no point in giving that person that self-insert character, which is literally a self-insert character, because this is Dungeons and Dragons we're talking about.
Right.
I can't give them my voice. Why did you give them a voice if I can't? It's never quite so easy as just casting somebody to say words into a microphone.
I think there is maybe a difference if it's a set character that's not customizable in any way, maybe aside from gender, versus a custom avatar. But most recently, this is the only game I could think of that really lets you customize your character fully and gives them full voice acting is Monster Hunter Wilds. Your hunter is completely customizable. You have multiple voice options, and they're speaking in cutscenes with any of those voices. They have dialogue. They're not really their own character. They're basically a self-insert, but they're an avatar, and they're fully speaking. And that's the only example I can really think of. I can't think of any other games that let you do a fully customizable avatar and give full voice acting.
That's fascinating. I'll have to look up some of those examples you mentioned, because this kind of stuff interests me, obviously. So I'd love to see that. But for now, yeah, I mean, Link is kind of a self-insert, but he really is a character too. And so whatever the future is for how voice acting is approached with them, I think they're going to do it right, in that they're going to be intentional about it.
Good balance.
Yeah, find that balance.
Well, thank you, Nintendo, for giving us that balance as well as you have for the last 40 years.
Oh, this is the 40th anniversary this year, right?
This will be the 40th anniversary as we run now into 2026.
Woo!
Absolutely crazy. Speaking of streaks and anniversaries, this also marks a full year now where we have been running this podcast on a consistent monthly basis.
Woo!
So,
congrats!
Very, very happy that we have been able to reach this milestone after several attempts to really get this podcast going. So thanks to you, Cayden, and to all of our regular contributors for helping make this podcast possible. Thank you, Jared, for coming today and sharing your insights, your wit, and of course your article.
It's an honor.
Thanks to all of the columns writers and features writers that we have had thus far this entire year of 2025. And thanks to all of you, our wonderful listeners, for stopping by and hanging out with us here on the Zelda Universe Podcast. We do this podcast once a month, so I look forward to seeing you in the new year as we begin our celebrations of 40 years of The Legend of Zelda. We'll see you next time.